One of the biggest revelations in my life is that the human heart, human emotions, is not the seat of the good, which is what was taught to me from the childhood. The human heart is guilty of serious crimes against the soul. The soul is really our real self. The human heart is a false self. We have accepted a false self as our boss and our leader, and we follow the morals of the human heart. We don't follow the morals of the soul. This is one of the reasons humanity is kind of like a madhouse. The soul wants to grow into adulthood. It is born a baby that is quite stupid. Babies are stupid to everything. Rent, mortgage, food. A baby will kill itself by itself. It doesn't understand this world. It needs information, a lot of information that it has to gather from parents and authorities. And if it doesn't get these informations properly, its adolescence become twisted and adulthood becomes impossible. And therefore, most human beings are crippled infants because they have failed to become an adult. And they have failed to become an adult because of the human heart and its principles. One of the worst legacies of the human heart is that it is a killer of individuality. It doesn't encourage the soul to become an individual, capable of its own opinions, capable of its own decisions as to how life, what kind of life is the soul going to live, what kind of career, what kind of marriage, what kind of relationships it wants. Parents usually dictate everything. They own the child like they would own a dog or a cat or a cow. This is the legacy of the human heart. Obedience. It demands absolute obedience, which is terrible because if you're taught obedience strongly, then the only thing that makes you happy is to be obedient and to satisfy your master, which is what the human heart likes. These are not the principles of the soul that like to educate, to inform the soul, and for the soul to grow, make its own decisions, and develop. The human heart is a killer of pleasure because pleasure is a love of the animal self and the physical self. And the human heart wants to dominate. The human heart wants to have a monopoly on the personality. It wants to replace the real soul by itself, the human heart, and create three slaves: the head, the animal, and the physique. This is the kind of psychology which dominates the world. These are the bosses, the authorities, the government, the religions, the parents. Mostly the human heart is the boss. One of the worst expressions of the human heart is that it is a killer of sexuality. It doesn't allow for sexuality outside of marriage. These are its principles. There's virginity and chastity values in women that are as strong as steel. A woman is brainwashed into thinking that only marriage and children determines the fulfillment of a woman, which is false. A woman can do a million different kind of things, a million different paths, a million careers. She can have 20 lovers, just like a man. Why is it that we don't have a united humanity against the problems of death, disease, and poverty? Because the human heart doesn't like unity. The human heart loves the family, even if the family is a bad family. What is a bad family? A family that doesn't love you, that doesn't support you, that pushes you around, that castrates you, that doesn't let you breathe. You're allowed to rebel against such a family because the individual, it turns out, the well-being of the individual, which means the well-being of the soul, is superior to the well-being of the family. The human heart doesn't like that. The human heart is a kind of communist. It likes the family, the race, the country, and the flag. And it separates from other families, other races, other countries, and other flags. And therefore, a Star Trek type humanity is impossible whenever the human heart is in power. The human heart loves to teach Walt Disney kind of morals to keep us a child and to prevent adulthood from dawning in the soul. Obligations and responsibilities do not make the soul happy. The soul needs pleasure, joy, orgasm, and growth. The human heart doesn't like these things. The human heart wants to belong to a group. The soul wants to live its life in whatever group it decides is good for the soul. Most human beings, most souls are stupid to power, stupid to rent and mortgage, stupid to life, stupid to money, and stupid to death. This is a business that's very difficult, where life has a chance to flourish. Human life has a chance to flourish for a period of about 75 years. And in the 50s and 60s, the power of death and old age come and take away and exhaust life, which means we have a limited time to flourish, and therefore we have to make the best from this flourishing. The human heart doesn't understand that, because the human heart doesn't understand life and death. It understands that there's a man in the sky waiting for us when we die to make us happy and give us paradise. This is what the human heart has found for over 5,000 years, absentee God religions. A God that is impotent, impotent, that cannot do anything, and that blames all the problems on the planet on the human itself. A planet the God is supposed to have created. The human heart is the ruler of the planet. It rules the family. It rules the school system. It rules the government. It rules the religion. You give me a bad leader. You give me somebody. You give me a bad family. You give me a bad school. You give me a bad government and a bad God. And I'm going to get crippled as a soul very seriously and get seriously depressed. It's not a fluke that alcohol and drugs are so big in humanity. The human heart has a lot to do with it.